True crimers, welcome to Break the Case. I'm your host. I'm Jen Coffindaffer. Listen, I know I'm coming in unexpectedly, but this case with Laken Snelling is really hitting home for a lot of reasons. Going to put her up on the screen. Laken Snelling, 21 years old, from Tennessee, attending the University of Kentucky, an athlete. I mean, just look at her. Amazing athlete. Part of their stunt team, which is like their cheerleading team, but actually did all these amazing stunts that you do at the Division I level. She recently gave birth to a baby, and this was the house. I just want to add it to the stage. Oh, added the wrong one to the stage. This is her house where the baby was found, I should say, in a closet. Now, when you look at the charges that she's been charged with, I actually think they are very telling. The charges specifically, and I'm going to read them verbatim because it's too important not to precisely indicate what she's been charged with. She's been charged with tampering with physical evidence. She's been charged with concealing the birth of an infant, and she's been charged with abuse of a corpse. Now, and this is her mugshot. I'm going to get into why this case for me just hits so close to home, but I want to keep it on Laken for a moment here and look closely at these charges. So a lot of people have been asking, why hasn't she been charged with murder? And I do believe already when you have a case like this, you are literally in the room with the ME as the case agent or as the homicide detective assigned. You know what the autopsy says and what the autopsy is showing, just to let you know. Yes, it's withheld from the public. Yes, they have this huge report they have to write. Toxicology and things like that can take a long time. But you know right away pretty much the manner of death, cause of death. You pretty much know, assuming that the ME has made a true determination. Sometimes, an accident can be confusing compared to a homicide in some instances, things along that line. But when I read this charge that says concealing the birth of an infant, this makes me believe that that infant was alive when that infant was born. And I say that based on that charge. It seems to me that you would not charge that charge unless you had an infant born alive. Then we have tampering with evidence. From the details we know, and let me give you a little bit of background, she gave birth to this child, and then after she gave birth, she covered up the everything involved with the area where she gave birth. She covered up the crime, anything that was bloody, everything that would have been used, what she used to clean. In fact, the report specifically says she cleaned up after the birth. And then she put everything that would have been an indication of this crime, she put into a black trash bag, including the infant, which was in a towel, found in this trash bag, found in the closet. She was interviewed and asked about the birth. And she admitted that this was her baby and she gave birth to the child. Now, you can see she had a boyfriend. She talks about the boyfriend. Um, I traced the boyfriend back about 6 months at least. I don't know if there was another boyfriend. I know there's a lot of rumors about that, but check out this picture here. I don't know if you could see my cursor. Check out this baby bump. I mean, this girl was in incredible shape. I'm going to see if I have another one that shows her body more closely. I don't have one that I downloaded, but you can see, I mean, I have another picture of her that I just didn't upload, but she's so svelte and athletic, and there's no sign of a baby in some of these photos, in her stump photos before she becomes pregnant. I believe in this picture, she was many months pregnant, about 3 months ago. So, you know, on the order of 5-ish plus months pregnant. What my point is here, and I hope somebody sees this and maybe knows her and would call into the show. I would love to have them on the show. My point is, I don't think this pregnancy, it doesn't seem like it was some big, something that was being hidden. I thought this was interesting too. I think it's right here. I thought this was interesting, and I don't know if you can see it. Let me get this off the screen here. Down here, I don't know if you can see this, but she shows a home and she shows children, she shows money. Basically, I think she was excited maybe about being a mom. Minimally, that was her goal, was to be a mom. And you look at this and you just ask, okay, she seems to have this loving boyfriend. She's part of this cheer team. She's an absolutely stunning looking at young woman. Yes, her life was ahead of her, but she doesn't seem to be concealing at all this child. Why then? Why? You know, when I first heard about this story, and I'm going to share why this is really personal to me. Some of you may know from different tweets I've put out over the last couple of years, but my mom, biological mom, I was adopted at birth. Well, really at 3 months. I spent 3 months in a nunnery in Las Cruces, New Mexico. But my mom was a cheerleader at UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso. And her sophomore year, after dating my father for about a year, she became pregnant. And my father had an arranged marriage. He's from Puerto Rico, an arranged marriage in Puerto Rico. And so he was not going to marry my mother. He then got sent to Vietnam, and they never saw each other again, actually, until I found both of them many years ago, about 27 years ago. And we all got together. It's been wonderful. I have the, you know, it's great to a degree, I will say, because my mom was actually headed to Mexico to have me aborted, according to the papers. So I was able, through a very interesting process. New Mexico is a closed state, meaning there's no way to get your adoptive records, at least when I was looking at them 27 years ago. I haven't looked to see if those laws have changed. I was an FBI agent at the time, and it really, really bothered me as a adopted person not to really have any understanding of who my biological parents were. I was so very different from the family that had adopted me, so completely different in every way. My looks, my stature, my interests, my athleticism. My mom, who raised me, was a great singer, and I unfortunately can't carry a note in a handbag. Um, so just very, very different worlds. And so I was very much compelled. Unfortunately, I couldn't get anything. I took 2 weeks off from work, and I got an amazing book at the library back then when people went to libraries and just didn't get on their phones. And it was for anybody who's in this audience that's adopted and you want to find your biological family. I highly recommend you get this book. It's called How to Find Anyone Anywhere. But in this book specifically, it discusses people who are adopted, and if you're adopted from a particular state during a particular time frame. It has all this amazing information, and I actually ended up calling the author, who gave me the name of the woman's home that it turned out that my mother had gone to. She had gone to the Mexico border to have an abortion, and she ended up seeing an ad in the paper for this home. She went to that home and thought about it for a few weeks, and all of this is so well documented. I literally have dozens and dozens of pages of entries from the journal that was kept on the interactions between her and the staff there. Anyway, she decided to go ahead and have me. She said goodbye to me in a closet, and my journey began in a Catholic home, and then I was adopted. But when I see these stories of these young women who make this decision to murder their children, their babies, their infants. And I will say, I want to be very careful because we have not seen the autopsy results, and she's not been charged with murder. The top charge in this case is abuse of a corpse, which means to me that, after the baby died, I don't know what she did to that corpse to conceal it. I shudder to think what details we might find out. But when you analyze that with the birth, covering the birth of an infant, this is what makes me believe her baby was possibly born alive. Now, if it wasn't born alive, you're going to see these charges remain. There's not going to be, the top charge is going to be the abuse of a corpse. It is not going to be murder or manslaughter or anything like that. But if that baby was alive, she made, this cognizant choice to murder this infant. And you have to ask why. From all accounts, she was in a loving relationship. At least if you look at her story and her information, from all accounts, she was only 21. Yes, she was in college. Without being too judgmental, we don't know about her family, but we know about her. She was accepted to the University of Kentucky. She was a smart young woman, certainly capable of raising a child. Would it have meant that she would have had to alter? Would she not be on the stunt team anymore? Would she maybe not have to go to school for a while? Did her boyfriend say he didn't want the baby? Well, when I look at these pictures, even just say the baby wasn't his, which we don't know. We don't know. I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm just giving two alternatives. If the baby was him or if the baby wasn't his, he doesn't seem upset about it from this photo. And there's many photos of them together. I mean, they did this whole photo shoot. Everything seems to be a pretty happy times. And it's clear to me that she is pregnant at this time. So I don't know what caused her to make this decision, but it's really, really sickening. If it ends up that this baby was born alive, and this baby meant no more than to put it in a trash bag and throw it in a closet, I would think probably for later disposal. It's hard to understand the desperateness as an educated woman, which she was. She wasn't 14 or 15. She was 21 years old, an adult. I always talk on Twitter about safe haven boxes. These boxes are amazing. They're at fire stations. I think some are at police stations. They're at various locations, and literally without a word and safe from ever being prosecuted. You can take your baby, and this happens all the time. I love it. Whenever I find out a story about a person that this happens to, I always post about it. You can put that baby. I posted about one recently where actually the firefighter ended up adopting the baby. But you can take your baby and you can put them in this safe haven box. No questions asked. And for them to be adopted by a loving family. Because let's face it, the adoption route can be difficult and tedious. There can be parameters on you. Sometimes they even, monitor, if you're going out, alcohol, whatever, all these issues. It could be complicated for young women to want to have months and months of being sort of monitored. I got to be honest, everyone. I don't get it. I'm just going to be honest. Was thrown in a trash can. I'm sorry, folks. I don't get it. I think it's heinous. I'm not trying to be judgmental on this woman. I just know how many people desire having a baby that could give that baby a beautiful life. There was an FBI agent that I worked very closely with. We were on the SWAT team together. I'll just give his first name, Bruce. We're still in communication. He actually is runs security for a huge mega church. So we're in contact sometimes out of safety issues and things. But he was adopted and had a beautiful life with his adopted family. Sometimes when I post about these issues on my Twitter, it's amazing. You would not believe the people that come in there, the trolls that hate the idea of adoption. They think safe haven boxes are horrible. They think literally it's better to just kill the baby. That's their position. It's better to have the baby die than to have the baby go to a home because they think it's too stressful on that baby when they grow up to not know their biological parents or otherwise, wonder about, I don't know, what life would have been or something. I don't know, that it traumatizes them. Well, and I always say this, and I know I can't speak for everyone, but I'm here to tell you that I think most people would rather have a chance at life than to have their corpse hurt in some way That's what she's been charged with. Wrapped up in a towel and thrown in the trash. Going out on a limb here. To have a chance of life. I'm very grateful to my mom that at her moment of wanting to have me aborted, didn't. I'm grateful. And every time I see one of these cases, I just think, I hope that for all of you out there, and that we as friends, as sisters, as brothers, aunts and uncles, everything, that we can touch those people, those kids, whether they be teenagers or whether they be young adults that are struggling, that maybe are pregnant, that are unhappy in that situation, that we can help them understand that there are choices, that there are other avenues other than murder, because that's what it is. It's murder. Once you give live birth to a baby, it's murder. And again, I want to caveat this discussion by saying that we haven't seen the autopsy, and there certainly is a chance that the baby was born stillborn. But the charges don't line up with that. The charges we're seeing, which is covering up the birth of an infant. And that's the charge. So I'm sure they're waiting for the autopsy. I'm sure they're waiting to understand if she had taken anything, so they could know whether this is murder, whether this was a manslaughter, how this came about. My hat's off to law enforcement for not just charging murder or manslaughter or something without having the totality of the circumstances. Like I said, even though you're in the room where the ME is performing the autopsy, and they're going to tell you right then whether that fetus was, whether that infant was born live or not. They're going to likely know that, and they're certainly going to share that with the detective. But there's still more information to glean. Like how did that baby die? Anyway, everyone, I just, again, I had to come on live. This is one of those subjects that just is really close to my heart. I know many of you, whenever I post about this, there's a lot of people in the audience that have been in the mother's shoes, and it's been such a difficult decision. And I've had many conversations with my own mom, trying to really understand what it is like not to want a child. Because for me, I have 3 children, and I tease around with my husband. I say, I never understood love till I had a child. Because boy, when you have that baby, there is just this incredible bond that's really hard to describe. And so it's so foreign to me how somebody can want to give up their child or kill their child. But for all the mothers out there who made that difficult decision, and then maybe have never reconnected, maybe don't want to connect with everything in their life going on, or worried that they wouldn't be accepted by that child, my hat's off to you. And, for what you did so that a life could be given, and a life wasn't taken and thrown into trash. I will be covering this case very closely, and I will be posting on it. I'll come back on probably impromptu as we hear more information. I want to check out chat really quick. Didn't want this to be a long live, but I definitely just want to take a look here at chat. Yeah, in a garbage bag. Main chick Carrie asked, was it in a garbage bag? Specifically, she took everything, cleaned up everywhere, took everything that she cleaned with, put it in a trash bag, and put the baby in a towel in a black garbage bag, and put that garbage bag in a closet. I would believe, logically speaking, and from past cases, with the intent that she was going to throw that garbage bag away at some point. Let's see. It is so sad, Lisa. I agree, Maine. There's just no excuse. It's a complete disregard, really, for life. And again, if it was a stillborn child, I'll come back. We'll have another update. I will be putting out updates. But I think the best thing we can do as a true crime community is just be there for those we know in our life that maybe are dealing with situations like this. And hard situation, man. Infants, babies should never be abused. They should never be murdered. And no infant or newborn should ever end up in the garbage. All right, everyone. Till next time, may justice be served.